Good morning. I'm James Schillinglaw,
And I'm Alan Fine.
and this is the second edition of ITR-TV's Travel in 10, a look at the week's top stories in travel. We had a lot of great comments from you about our very first Travel in 10, and we made a few tweaks and shortened our stories, so we hope you like today's program. And so let's get started. Now, for our top story, it now looks that U.S. citizens can travel almost anywhere they want to now. On August 6th, the U.S. State Department lifted the global Level 4 health advisory, first put in place on March 19th, that was a long time ago, advising U.S. citizens to avoid all international travel due to the global impact of COVID-19. The State Department said it had worked in close coordination with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Now, one challenge that Americans will have, however, is that while we can travel to international destinations, most, if not all of those destinations don't want us, including all of Europe and the UK. Many international destinations have imposed 14-day quarantines on U.S. travelers, while others require COVID-19 tests for entry. And many Americans just can't get tested in time with all the delays in getting such testing. Now, with all of the health and safety conditions improving in some countries and potentially deteriorating in others, the State Department is returning to its previous system of giving countries specific advisory levels, from 1 to 4, depending on the conditions in the country, so travelers can make informed travel decisions. Now, in reaction to all this, ASTA CEO Zane Kirby welcomed the news that after 4 months, the State Department is returning to country-specific levels of travel advice as opposed to its prior worldwide Level 4 do not travel advisory. We would note that extensive restrictions on entry of U.S. travelers exist across the globe, and that the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention continues to advise all travel to the vast majority of the world, so that State Department action will have limited immediate impact, Kirby said. Now, of course, even as the State Department dropped the global Level 4 health advisory against travel, it actually raised the level for two key destinations that American travelers are going to right now. The Dominican Republic and Mexico are now designated Level 4 do not travel countries. And ironically, they are two of the only countries to accept U.S. visitors pretty much unconditionally, although the Dominican Republic does have a COVID test requirement. The State Department seems to have selected some of the few remaining countries that Americans can travel to without quarantine, and that's not good. Alan, what do you have for us?
Last week was not a very good one for the cruise industry. Again, a number of small ship cruise lines resumed sailing, all with new health and safety protocols in place to help fight against the spread of coronavirus, but 3 of them had guests test positive for COVID-19, so they were forced to return to port, disembark passengers, and quarantine. First, in response to an outbreak of coronavirus aboard the MS Roald Amundsen, Hurtigruten suspended all expedition sailings on that ship, MS Fridtjof Nansen and the MS Spitsbergen, until further notice. Some 41 crew members and 21 guests tested positive for COVID-19 in the outbreak aboard MS Roald Amundsen, which is currently in Tromsø, Norway, after cutting short an expedition sailing in the northern region of the country. Shortly after that incident, a guest on the Paul Gauguin cruise ship on a sailing of French Polynesia tested positive for COVID-19. The ship returned to port in Papeete, where the guest, who had no symptoms, and her mother were both removed. Then the other guests were removed as well. We've asked but have not heard whether future Paul Gauguin sailings have been affected. And finally, perhaps the most disappointing part of the story, Uncruise Adventures Wilderness Explorer departed a week ago, Saturday, on a 7-day Alaska sailing out of Juneau. Wilderness Explorer was all set to be the only ship cruising Alaska this summer. Then a guest who had initially tested negative for COVID-19 tested positive on a second test in Juneau. The cruise was in its 4th day when it got his results, and the ship returned to Juneau, where the passengers were quarantined in a hotel. The guests never had any symptoms of coronavirus, and other passengers did not test positive for the disease, at least not so far. But Uncruise decided to cancel the ship's next 4 sailings. The week ended, of course, when Cruise Lines International Association said its cruise line members would voluntarily suspend operations through October 31. This is a month later than the Centers for Disease Control's latest date for the end of its no-sail order. Obviously, the major cruise lines are being extremely cautious about restarting operations, perhaps influenced by these experiences of the small lines over the past week or two. But then again, you could look at all this in a positive way. The cruise line's new health and safety protocols pretty much worked as they were designed. Guests were tested, and if they tested positive, the ships headed back to port, and they were disembarked safely and put into quarantine. Instead of spreading the virus as in the past, it was successfully contained.
It is an unfortunate thing going on in the cruise industry. We had really hoped that those sailings were all going to go out, and I really feel badly, especially for Uncruise, because it really was going to be a great cruise, and they missed it, and then they're not going to do the rest of the season. But hopefully we'll get back on board soon. Now, I'll turn to another story that's pretty important here for travel advisors. Late last week, the American Society of Travel Advisors, ASTA, revealed the results of a survey of its members that found that more than 71% of all travel agencies will fold within 6 months if they don't get more federal relief money during the COVID-19 crisis. The survey is all part of ASTA's lobbying efforts to get more money to get travel agencies through this crisis. ASTA President Zane Kirby said if all these travel agencies go out of business, quote, this would leave travel suppliers' main distribution channel crippled and the traveling public left without access to the critical services that travel planners provide, unquote. In other results from this survey, more than 90% of ASTA members report revenues are down 75% or more compared with 2019. Layoffs and furloughs have spread throughout the industry, and there's a projected 3 to 12-month lag time in business income, meaning your commissions returning after the bookings resume. It cannot be underestimated, Kirby said, these are incredibly difficult times for travel agencies across the country. Now, at the end of last week, it seemed Congress and the Trump administration were no closer to passing another relief bill, unfortunately. Indeed, Republicans and Democrats seem to be at loggerheads over passing any additional unemployment benefits, putting in place a second program similar to the Payroll Protection Plan, or providing new loans to small businesses. President Trump was reportedly considering a series of executive orders to provide relief, blaming Democrats for the impasse, but it was unclear whether he had the power to do so, since Congress by law has oversight over the federal budget and effectively holds the power of the purse. Over to you, Alan.
4 years ago, Uniworld launched a sister brand, U by Uniworld, targeting a much younger demographic for river cruises with 2 revamped ships, the A and the B. It seemed a good idea at the time to focus on getting to a new generation to experience the product, but the challenge is it didn't work too well. Many younger people simply didn't understand river cruising or couldn't afford it, so U was forced to drop one of the 2 ships for a time. Now U by Uniworld, often just called U, is relaunching the brand in a new form even in the midst of the coronavirus crisis. Effectively, U is now reimagining itself not just for younger guests, but for families, foodies, and active travelers, and offering an even more inclusive experience. You will feature 4 itineraries sailing to the top European cities and river towns, and will include everything from offshore excursions to airport transfers, as well as themed cruises tailored to what you calls the curious spirit. For 2021, you will introduce Gen Z on You, a new family program exclusively for teens and their parents. On select sailings, these cruises are designed to celebrate special milestones, graduations, and birthdays, allowing families to simply connect. For parents, Gen Z on You is being positioned as an ideal way to explore Europe and bond with their teens through travel, while only unpacking once in their own floating modern hotel with contemporary accommodations. Featured offshore excursions include a culture and food tour by bike through Antwerp's neighborhoods, kayaking through the canals of Ghent, yoga in the Vakau Valley vineyards, and a Viennese cooking class. U's first foodie-themed cruise, called If You Love Food, If You Love Food, will set sail July 24, 2021, in collaboration with top food influencer Salvador Di Benedetto, who has more than 215,000 Instagram followers and is widely sought after for his food and photography travel inspiration. Over to you, James.
Well, that's great news. I've been following You by Uniworld for a while, and I thought it was a great idea at the time to target younger cruisers, because we all know that the age demographic for most river cruises is pretty up there. But if this is the case and they're going to change the brand a little bit, good luck to them, because I think it's a good move.
Well, I remember when they were saying, it's more fun, it's fun for the young, and then I remember them saying, but everybody, every age wants fun, and that's when they pivoted.
Well, that's good. And so hopefully that will be more successful next year when I guess most river cruises are going to be back. But anyway, let's get to our next story. And it was indeed our top video interview of the week, which is somewhat surprising to me. But ABC Global Services acquired the assets of CCRA in an integration of the two largest providers of hotel content and travel agency services. Now, we got the scoop last week with our story and then got a chance to interview the principals about why the combination of these two groups should prove mutually beneficial to travel advisors by providing an even higher level of travel and hospitality products and personalized service. Let's hear first from Eric Altschul, who's CEO of ABC.
The breadth and the depth that we can now bring to our hotel partners jointly is just significant. And that we're going to layer in and add into that, obviously, the air partners and the global supplier network partners to really open up that network to benefit both. And on the other side, to your question is, well, agencies are going to benefit as well, too. And part of that is we now together jointly have the ability, much more than we did individually, although we both had some of it before, is to have really unique and differentiated content and more content than anybody else. So our goal is, again, as agencies and TMCs get back to the new normal, that we deliver more opportunities for them to impact their bottom line, to help them save their customers money. Our ability to deliver that content is really second to none and really differentiates us from the competition.
And now let's hear from Dick Markson, who's president and CEO of CCRA.
Let's be clear about this. The hotels are very, very demanding right now, and they have a right to be. It is a difficult time for them. They have many properties that have not opened yet. They have many properties that are open, but they're only 30% capacity full, or floors that are actually being supported and driven for occupancy. It's up to us to bring additional added value to them, more than just discounts, more than just rolling out rate code production. We've got to bring additional added value, and I think this is where we're really going to shine, and we're really excited about presenting this to the hotel chains during the next several weeks during this infamous RFP season to let them know about, and we're willing to work with the hotel partners. We're willing to construct a financial partnership that really makes sense for them and us, but also I think they're going to be very excited about the added value that we're going to be able to bring to the table that nobody else has. So yeah, it's pretty exciting.
And no, there is no truth to the rumor that the combined company will now be known as ABC CCRA. Now, Alan, what else do you have for us next?
That's a Jackson 5 song, isn't it? ABC. Last week, Gianni Onorato, MSC Cruises CEO, revealed the comprehensive health and safety protocols developed to support the restart of his cruise line's operations in the Mediterranean, working closely with leading external medical experts and the different authorities in the countries where the ships will call. The new protocols go beyond regional and national guidelines and effectively set a whole new standard. MSC Cruises has developed comprehensive operating procedures built upon already stringent health and safety measures that have long been in place on board its ships. The new procedures include universal COVID-19 testing for all guests and crew prior to embarkation, the introduction of a COVID protection plan, and specially sanctioned shore visits at each destination. In fact, MSC will warn guests they are not permitted to go ashore on their own and can only disembark on an MSC-verified excursion. MSC Cruises just announced over the weekend that MSC Grandioso and MSC Magnifica will resume sailing on August 16 and 29, respectively. MSC Grandiosa, the company's flagship, will offer 7-night cruises in the Western Mediterranean, calling at Italian ports of Genoa, Civitavecchia, Rome, Naples, Palermo, and Valletta. MSC Magnifica will offer 7-night cruises in the Eastern Mediterranean, departing from Italian ports of Bari, Trieste, and calling at the Greek ports of Corfu, Catacolone, and Piraeus. For now, however, Americans won't be able to sail on these cruises since in the initial restart, these two MSC ships will only welcome guests who are residents of European countries. And then in the U.S., MSC Cruises ships will only return to service once approvals have been received from the CDC and relevant local authorities. Over to you, James.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about our coverage of cruising lately, and all these ships hopefully heading out to sea with varying levels of success in the face of the COVID-19 crisis. But believe me, there are other segments that are starting up pretty big. Now, some tour operators are experiencing their own firsts in travel this year. While the impact of the pandemic continues to be felt across the globe, adventure tour operator Intrepid Travel has just launched its first tour program since March 2020. Now, on August 6, 2020, 6 travelers, all from the United Kingdom, departed from Athens on an Intrepid Travel's new 5-day Greece retreat, Syros Island Tour. The trip is part of the newly relaunched Intrepid Retreats, a new product category where groups can immerse themselves in one location, staying in small boutique hotels or even glamping. Now, these retreats celebrate slow travel and allow adventurers to engage with the surrounding communities, away from the crowds, and in a more controlled setting. Now, the Greece retreat, which visits secluded beaches and offers a taste of local life, will operate under Intrepid's new Safe Travels health protocols. All travelers will complete a health screening at the start of the trip and be required to wear masks in certain settings. The trip visits one of Greece's lesser-known islands, Syros, a destination that reflects Intrepid's commitment to rebuild responsibly. And I've been to Syros, and it's a marvelous island. The itinerary has been designed to benefit local communities affected by the pandemic. For example, the group will have a chance to visit a local family-owned business to see how loukoumos, and I'll stumble over that word, it's actually fried dough pastry, sounds good right now, and that's where that's made. They will also get a chance to try local Syros dishes at a remote taverna in the hills overlooking the Aegean. Now, Alan, what else do you have for us today?
Well, would you and your clients like to fly on this aircraft? When Virgin Galactic made its debut 16 years ago, one of the benefits the company touted wasn't just the ability to send tourists into space, but to fly passengers around the world in record time at speeds of Mach 3 and beyond. Now, just days after Virgin Galactic introduced the new interior design of the cabin on Spaceship Two, designed for spaceflight, the company has unveiled the first stage of its high-speed aircraft design and signed a contract with Rolls-Royce to collaborate in designing and developing engine propulsion technology for the high-speed commercial aircraft. This follows the successful completion of Virgin Galactic's Mission Concept Review Program and an agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration to work with the company to outline a certification framework. It marks another step forward in Virgin Galactic's development of a new generation of high-speed aircraft with a focus on customer experience and environmental sustainability. So how fast? Those aircraft could potentially take passengers between New York and Tokyo in just 3 hours. Very helpful at a time when we're all trying not to use the airplane bathroom. James, what do you have for us?
Well, it certainly is. I mean, we lost the age of supersonic flight a long time ago, and in a way, we're getting it back if this becomes reality. And when Virgin Galactic first started, I was there. I was at the initial press conference, and it was pretty amazing. We all loved the whole concept of space flight, but the other part of this was the concept of very fast flight.
Something practical we can use.
Absolutely, a flight that could take us across the world in very little time, maybe even faster than supersonic flight if we're talking Mach 3. And that potential was so important in my view, even more so than going up into space. But I think they're finally doing it. Let me turn to our ninth story today. You may be wondering how all those Orlando theme parks are doing as a new surge of cases hits Florida. Now, here's what's happening, at least one of them. Universal Orlando, which reopened on June 3rd after being closed for nearly 3 months, revealed last week that it would lay off an undisclosed number of workers. Now, the news came just weeks after Universal Orlando said work on its planned Epic Universe theme park construction, which was a brand new park they had planned, would not resume until the economy bounces back. The project was announced last year with few details about the attractions or the price, only that it would be located roughly 2 miles from Universal Orlando's existing theme parks on land the resort had purchased a few years ago. Now, Universal Orlando said it would lay off workers a day after its parent company, Comcast, reported poor financial results due to the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, before the pandemic, Universal Orlando employed about 25,000 employees. So they're still hurting down there, even though they are open. Walt Disney World is open, Universal Orlando is open, and SeaWorld Orlando is open. but all with limited capacity and, of course, with all of the new health and safety protocols. But it's not back to normal yet. So, Alan, what's our last story for today?
Working from home doesn't have to be boring. What if your home could be a luxury Las Vegas hotel or an all-inclusive resort or even an island somewhere? Well, we're seeing a deluge of long-term stay offers as resorts and destinations create attractive programs for the millions of employees and students who need to work from home but are getting tired of it. With the catchy name Viva Las Office, MGM Resorts has developed a package it's calling the ultimate home away from the home office experience at Bellagio and Aria. With 3-tiered packages, Viva Las Office offers a series of amenities and benefits to fit every working traveler's needs. You can get a 3, 4, or 5-night stay and can maximize your work days with flexible check-in and check-out times, as well as a dedicated executive assistant who will handle all reservations and experiences throughout your stay. Now, Playa Hotel and Resorts wants to attract the same customers with a Work and Learn from Paradise program. This is an extended, upgraded stay with reduced rates at select Playa all-inclusive resorts through December 22 of 2020. This includes guests of all ages at the Hyatt Ziva Cancun, Hyatt Ziva Cap Cana, Hyatt Ziva Rose Hall, as well as the adults-only Hyatt Zilara Cancun, the Hyatt Zilara Cap Cana, the Hyatt Zilara Rose Hall, and Sanctuary Cap Cana. So plenty of places to go there. Now, from multiple week and month stays at resorts, we moved to even longer stays on 2 exotic islands. Bermuda has launched a new website for professionals, investors, entrepreneurs, and digital nomads who can work remotely. They can apply for a new Work from Bermuda 1-year residential certificate for themselves and their families. Eligible applicants can submit their completed form together with supporting documentation for a $263 fee and by visiting www.workfrombermuda.com. Applications will be processed by the Bermuda Department of Immigration and a response will be provided within 5 business days. And like Bermuda, Barbados is accepting applications for its new 12-month Barbados Welcome Stamp. This special visa provides remote workers with an opportunity to transport their home office to Barbados and live like a Bajan for up to a year. Barbados has simplified the visa application process to ensure a stress-free experience. And if a year is not enough, both island countries offer renewals. James, over to you to wrap up.
Well, those programs both sound like a great way to take a break from working at your home and really a chance to get away. I know for us, we're working all around the world, and it's much nicer to have an office on a beach in a beach cabana somewhere than always being in your apartment or your home. And all I couldn't get it out of my mind there when you said Viva Las Office was the old Vegas, Viva Las Office. How about that?
Right. In other words, you heard Elvis singing it.
I heard Elvis singing to me, and it's calling to me, and I think I got to take my home office to the Bellagio area very soon. Maybe we can work something out. Anyway, so that's it for this week's edition of ITR-TV's Travel in 10. We look forward to getting your feedback on our program, what you like about it and what you don't like. And it's even a bit shorter than our first program, although we're going to keep working to try to cut it down even more next time. Please email me your comments to james@insidertravelreport.com.
Or you can email me with your comments. And we also want to make sure that you know that this and all Insider Travel Report videos are available as podcasts for you when you don't have time to sit and watch a video, but you want to hear our interviews on the go. You can find us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Alexa, Podbeam, and we'll soon be on Pandora. Just trying to make sure you can find us. So we'll see you next Monday. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep hitting the control button key on your keyboard because we need to get a little of that back.